I thought this video was going to be a tutorial, but doing a tutorial when you haven't drawn for months was not so great idea. So instead, this will be about my process of redesigning my OC. Okay, now that I got you hooked, I don't need to do this stupid TikTok editing. Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Vanny and today I'll be drawing my beloved yet controversial character, Lilith. I wasn't sure how to introduce this video as technically it's my first video, but let's just pretend it isn't to make it less awkward for me. Initially, this video was going to have a more educational approach about my process of drawing character art, but since this was my first time drawing in a very long time, the process got all over the place and so did my recording of this drawing. I will make a video in the future about my process where I explain more in depth in a step-by-step approach as to why I do the things I do with my drawings, but I think I'll reserve that for illustrations with proper backgrounds. So I've had this idea for such a long time and it all started with a TikTok I saw a couple years ago, this one specifically. The girl here would be replaced by my character and the monster would be replaced by my character's monster. That was the initial plan, but you'll see further down the line that I will stray away from this idea. Instead, the goals for this character illustration became 1. Focus on textures and areas of rest, which I will do by blocking in the shadows and light first in the solid colors and using large textured brushes. 2. Don't over-render, which ties back to areas of rest. If I focus on adding details to the light parts of the drawing, for example, then the shadows will automatically become areas of rest. 3. The character should be a part of an environment, so no white background. Instead, the character should reflect as if it's in a photo studio with a white backdrop. I use art references that has white backgrounds, and I focus on identifying why they look dynamic and vivid. I downloaded some new brushes and was excited to use them for this piece. One of these brushes was a texture one that I used for sketching and lining, but future me ended up regretting this as it required more cleanup time during the rendering stage. So for the sketching phase, I wasn't able to record most of the sketching phase since I've been having a problem with my tablet drivers for a while. More specifically, if I don't use it for more than 3 days, my computer doesn't recognize the tablet anymore, despite my tablet still working as a monitor, so I always need to reinstall the drivers and then rebind all the shortcuts on my pen and tablet. I remember when I was in the early stage of sketching, I launched Photoshop for the first time in a week and I got hit with a "tablet is disconnected." Eventually, when I thought I had configured my PC and my tablet's compatibility correctly, I just wanted to get over with the sketching part as I had already wasted a lot of time trying to fix this. After I laid down the flat colors, I then added the shadows. I prefer to add shadows first because in my head I am automatically adding in light by adding shadows. In my head, I make sure that the midtones, light, and shadows are distinguishable enough from each other, and I do this by having a different view on my monitor, showing my drawing in black and white while I work in normal color mode. For midtones, I can get away with using a soft brush whose density varies depending on my pen pressure. For light and shadows, I prefer either using a lasso tool or the flat pencil brush, similar to an ink pen. I'm not sure if you have noticed, but I also prefer using a desaturated base colors, and the simple reason for that is that the more desaturated a color is, the easier it is for the naked eye to tell the actual value of the color. What I mean by this is that I can tell how dark or how bright a color is, which is very important in terms of managing the focal point of the drawing. After I've laid down all the shadows, light technically, and midtones, I then proceed to merge them together with the flat colors, but the line art. Since my process is all over the place at times, my layers are also all over the place, and I feel like working on one simple layer combats this messy working style. With my process, as you can see in the video, I don't really work in a specific order, but rather what I feel like I can work best in at the moment. It happens a lot of time that when I focus on adding flat colors or rendering a part of a drawing, let's say the stomach, and I feel like I'm spending a lot of time trying to get the placements of the brushstrokes right, I just move on to a different part of the drawing and I work from there until I'm ready to go back. I remember one really skilled artist that tweeted how you have to be conscious of every line and brushstroke you put on a drawing, and that is the mindset I continuously apply throughout my whole work process. So in essence, you will see me go redo the same lines over and over, but I promise, the time I spend doing this is always worth it. The reason it's taking such a long time for me to figure out what brushstroke to place down on a specific part is because I'm not used to drawing that particular part, but my brain however knows that something is off. Do you guys know that scene from The Notebook where Ryan Gosling goes, "What do you want?" and Rachel McAdams just go, "I don't know!"
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
That's essentially the conversation my brain and my right hand is having with each other during these indecisive segments. With this in mind, I like working on a single layer as I know my sketchy line art will never be perfect when I reach the rendering stage, and I like the freedom of freely overpainting things. To me, speaking about the goals of my drawing earlier in the video, every time I'm done drawing for the day, I always write down notes and add highlights for myself to keep in mind or fix next time I open the drawing file. Now, this character Lilith is the character I really enjoy drawing, along with my other character, Callie. Callie, however, is more beloved than what Lilith is to me, to the point where I get intimidating drawing Callie because I want her to look just perfect. I don't have that many OCs. In fact, I like to recycle a lot of them, and I treat them as my personal dress-up dolls. Say right now I have 4 OCs at the moment that I rotate through. Either way, I noticed in my old drawings of Lilith that she looked too young and cutesy, although she's in her mid-20s, and she is supposed to have this siren beauty to her. I combated this issue with my old style by making sure that her face in this drawing would have smaller eyes, slightly elongated face, and small lips, but still being in the anime style range, and I was really happy with how her face turned out. For her outfit, Lilith is a character who enjoys wearing clothes that shows off her assets. Found her old outfit to be too monotone in terms of colors and the clothes looking cheap. I've been playing Sims a lot lately and I stumbled upon this custom content of a shirt that I liked, and I used it as a reference for Lilith's new shirt. Lilith would also wear this Sherpa hat, and this was included in the original sketch of this drawing, but when I tried to add it to the drawing later, I didn't like how it looked, so I just scrapped it. The problem I had, however, upon scrapping the Sherpa hat was the visual balance of her design. With her white plain hair, it contrasts too greatly from her outfit, and her outfit is simple, but there are still details within them. This made her white hair look kind of out of place, so I wanted to add something to balance it out, and that's when I got this idea of adding black stripes to her hair, similar to Christina Aguilera's hair from her music video, Dirty. Next, the background. I was so torn about what to go with. The initial idea was that there would be 2 characters, a monster and a woman. My inspiration for this drawing was that it would be used for my portfolio and then uploaded to ArtStation. However, one major problem I had was that the monster design I had in mind was far from being done, and I didn't want to put out a monster design that I wasn't happy with. I also asked my friends for feedback, and although I showed scraps of the monster version and the collage version, majority wanted me to go with the collage version and a white background. Now, the question was, what should I add to the background? I for one enjoy drawing characters with animated and lively expressions, so although Lilith does not wear glasses in her normal design, I thought she looked cute with them on, so I decided to use it for grimaces, or however you say it. I drew 2 expressions on top of the character art and then edited it into looking like a photo booth strip. For other background assets, I wanted to add objects and elements that were reflective of Lilith's personality and likes. For that, I added a CD of Rihanna's album Talk That Talk, as I felt like that would be an artist and album Lilith would enjoy listening to. I wanted to initially add lyrics of Rihanna's song Skin, but I thought that Adele's song on the beat was more fitting to describe Lilith's seductive yet self-destructive nature. I then added the Tom Ford Tobacco Vanilla perfume. The perfume is personally one of my favorites as I love spicy scents, and this is also a kind of perfume I feel like Lilith would wear. Also, do you guys know about Skullpandas? My goodness, they are the cutest thing ever. I remember when the whole Labubu craze happened and I thought people's fixation on them were just absurd and unjustified. Then, when I was in Korea last year, I got to be in a Pop Mart store in person, and that's when I came across Skullpandas. Oh my gosh, seeing them in person felt like a monkey having a neuron activation moment because something inside of me just spiraled and I walked out of the store with 20 boxes of Skullpanda figurines and pendants. My favorite one is Chestnut and Chomp from the You Found Me series, and I like to use these pendants for my bags. The cinnamon one is so cute and I love the color palette on that one. Though, on one hand, I can imagine Lilith dropping all her money just to get the secret edition of this Skullpanda. Whenever I finish a piece, I always like to look back to reflect on the process and the outcome. I assess if the goals I mentioned before were met, and after that I also reflect how I feel about the piece. Is there something that I like that I will try to apply for next time? something else I struggle with that I'll focus on for the next drawing. How does this artwork compare to the ones I like and that have similar composition to my own drawing? In general, I have a critical view of my drawings, and it's a double-edged sword. Yes, I want everything to look perfect, but I end up spending such excessive time on a drawing that I end up scrapping it and move on to a new drawing. You will notice that I spent a long time working on the hair because when I had initially rendered it, it looked too muddy and too detailed. It's a personal goal I work on, which is to simplify things, and this is a prominent challenge when I work on hair. So, in this video, you won't see me rendering the hair I later decided to re-render. I just thought it was unnecessary to show that part. Also, fun fact, it was only during the rendering stage that I realized her head looked a bit disproportional, but I'd blame this on the size of the boots, honestly. In general, I mainly create female OCs because, as I said before, I like to treat them as my dress-up dolls. I think there's a distinct pattern as to what kind of female characters I both enjoy drawing and designing, and it's those that has more of a serious tone to them. I only have one character whose name is Chaeyoung or Chai, I haven't fully decided her name, falls into the cutesy category, but I created her as a way to practice my Korean. I created Lilith many years ago and I knew ahead how I wanted her to be. I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm someone who enjoys creating unlikable characters, which is exactly how I want Lilith to be. I don't want to go too much in depth about Lilith because she's one of the main characters for my future named comic, but the hint I can give is that she was inspired by Makima. And now, some silence. Now, pay particular attention here to what kind of brushes I'm using. As I mentioned earlier, I prefer using flat pencil brush or brushes that draws like an ink pen for shadows and lights. When it comes to midtones, however, I use textured brushes to blend the shadows and lights together. Another great thing about using textured brushes is that it makes the drawing look more rendered and detailed while saving you time, and you also apply a variation of edges. This makes the drawing as a whole look more dynamic. I knew ahead that there was a risk that I might have gone for a white background, which is what I did in the end. When comparing to other drawings that also had white backgrounds yet looked dynamic, I realized the reason this drawing fell flat was because of the pose. It's as if the camera is right in front of my character when I could have taken the opportunity to A, if my character was going for a static or plain pose, I should make up for the lacking dynamics by having a more interesting composition or angle. B, if my character was going for a dynamic pose, then there isn't really a need to brainstorm experimental angles. I realized down the line that by having either a dynamic pose or a dynamic angle, we as artists are portraying the depth in the drawing, which is what makes it look alive despite the background being plain. Of course, you can do both a dynamic pose and a dynamic angle. This was just an example. Okay, now some drum rolls, please.